Michael Cohen's credibility gets further shredded today in day trial of the Alvin Bragg case. We know that we have Keith Davidson, the former lawyer for Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal, who's back on the stand. We're going to get into cross-examination by him from Trump's defense. And he was the person who facilitated a lot of these deals, was working with Michael Cohen and David Pecker to get Karen McDougal settled out. And we heard from him that his relationship with Michael Cohen was a little bit tense. They said that they had to pay him $10,000 to even pick up the phone to call Michael Cohen. That's how annoying Michael Cohen is. Could you imagine? I believe it. I don't know if 10,000 is enough, to be honest, but that's what it cost. So we're going to get into this. Of course, Inner City Press is the person reporting. Trump is explaining his eyes and why they might be closed. We've got Tim Scott, and then Trump spoke after court and also delivered pizzas to the FDNY. And so we'll see what that looked like, making the most out of a rigged sham prosecution. So we're going through this courtesy of Inner City Press. You know where to find him. And we're back in court. Trial is day 10. You can follow him. He reports to us that after a contempt hearing, which took place earlier in the morning, the jury is now in session. Jury enters, and Mr. Davidson was already back on the stand. The government prosecutor comes out to finish the direct examination. Says, "Welcome back, Mr. Davidson. Mr. Davidson, when you were here last, you were talking about your emails with and about Michael Cohen. Remember that? Yeah. And so I want to share with you the government exhibit 168. All right, blow that up on the screen over there. What does that say to you, Mr. Davidson?" It says, executed agreement, change to correct LLC, escrow until receipt of agreement by Dylan. He reads the document. Thank you. And so what was this email about? He says, well, we'd had a phone call and I'd lost trust in Michael Cohen. And so we were having a problem there. And so Dylan came in to mediate that. Well, why did you lose trust with Michael Cohen? Says the prosecutor. Davidson says, well, he was not telling me the truth. And I thought that, and the prosecutor cut him off. Zip it. That's enough. He was not telling me the truth. Perfect. That's all. Shut up. Don't say anything else out of that. And how about this document, this email? Now, you gave this to us under subpoena. Is that right? Yeah. And what does this one say? Put it up on the screen, blowing it up. It says list Essential Consultants LLC. It says your Michael Cohen, your comma Michael Cohen. Did you respond to this? Yes, I did. At 7:02 a.m., I said, I will work in good faith to get that done. Now, Mr. Davidson, did you receive the funds as a wire from Essential Consultants? So you actually got some money. Is that right? Yes. And this on this liquidated damages provision. What does that mean? He says, well, I authored this provision. It was for $1 million per violation. He says, I believe this provision would be unenforceable, but you know, Michael Cohen demanded it. That was in there. So I put it in there. And liquidated damages, these are sort of pre-contemplated penalties if there's a breach. So in a contract, right, if there's a breach of a contract, you say, hey, I was supposed to have these widgets delivered here yesterday. You didn't deliver them here yesterday. We had a contract for you to do that. You didn't do that. Therefore, there's a breach of contract. I'm damaged because I needed to use those widgets for this project. Now that project's delayed, so I'm hurt. So I got to show my damages, and maybe that's $1,000 or $50,000. I don't know. But liquidated damages, you could just say, look, I don't know what my damages will be. If those widgets are not here at 9 a.m., it is $50,000 a day that their widgets are not here. Oh, crap. Okay, crap. $50,000 a day. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, whatever it is. So they just argued $1 million per violation. Woo! Michael Cohen, like big boy over there, says it's not even enforceable, but he's like, whatever. I put it in there because Cohen's a moron. Who cares? He says, I believe this provision would be unenforceable, but whatever. He says, okay, thank you for that. Now, who is DD? Who is DD? He says, that's Donald Trump. Is his name written here in the side letter? He says, yeah, that's my handwriting. That's his name. DD. Yeah, that's my handwriting. It says attorney's eyes only. Well, who signed for David Dennison? He says, Michael Cohen did. And Mr. Davidson, how much did you personally make from this whole deal? He says, 10,000. And how much did Stormy Daniels get? Well, I can't answer that. I think that's attorney-client privilege. Sorry. Now, when did the article come out about Karen McDougal's agreement? And when it did, how did Michael Cohen came out? You guys executed this. You made 10 grand. Okay. What happened next? He says, well, Cohen was angry. He was angry about the timing. You know, it came out just before the election. And this email looks like it was on election night. Is that right? What did you write on this screen? He says, what have we done? Okay. So it's like a text message. So he sends a text to someone else. What have we done? We got Trump elected. Oh no. We're not going to have new wars and a secure border and a functional economy with a sound dollar. Okay. No. What have we done? What did you mean by that, Mr. Davidson when you sent that text? He said, well, I thought that we may have helped get Donald Trump elected. And what did Dylan Howard respond with? He said, OMG. Oh my God. And who won the election, Mr. Davidson? Donald Trump. And later, Michael Cohen called me, said Davidson. He says, and I was in a strangely decorated department store. And Cohen called me. He says, good Lord, man. Can you effing believe I'm not going to DC? After everything I've done for that effing guy, I've saved his ace so many times and he didn't even pay me my $130K. It's like, wow. Cohen called you and said that? Says, is this a receipt from the store you were in when you got the call from Michael Cohen? He says, yeah, that's the receipt. I was in there. It's this strange store, strangely decorated department store. Wonder what he was in. I don't know where he's at, what kind of store he was in. But he says, yeah, that's the call. December 9th, 2016. Now, he says, I'm almost afraid to ask, but how was that store decorated? He says it was a big box store. It was like an Alice in Wonderland thing. Okay. Now to early 2018. Okay, so we're in 2016. The election's over. Trump's ready to be sworn in January of 17. And Michael Cohen gets the call. You're not going to DC. You're an idiot. So I'm almost afraid to ask. He says, like Alice in Wonderland. I go, okay, fine. Let's go to early 2018. So we fast forward. Trump is now in office. He says, what's this document? He says, well, I had received a comment call from the Wall Street Journal. Some reporter was poking around. They were asking about Stormy Daniels and Donald Trump. And so I reiterated our 2011 denial. I said, no, there is no relationship. Our cease and desist letter to thedirty.com. And we know that letter. We've seen that letter many times. That letter is the Stormy Daniels letter. I have not, stop asking me about it. He says, so it was in January 2018. And so I forwarded it to Cohen. Some reporter, look, no, there's a 2011 denial. We sent a cease and desist to the dirty. Like, it's clear. Like, no, go away. And so I forwarded that to Cohen, the email. Now I want to show you, Mr. Davidson, the government exhibit 255. You see this? Yeah. What is it? Those look like instant messages between me and Michael Cohen. And so I wrote this. I said, Wall Street Journal called Stormy deadline tonight. Cohen sent a message back. Write a strong denial for her like you did before. Now, what was issued true? He says, well, technically it was. Well, how? He says, well, the relationship was not romantic. He says, but was it sexual? He says it was an and or. It was an and/or. He says, okay, so that was just really cleverly worded. Is that what you're saying? Let's see where this letter was. Aha. So this letter says, over the past few weeks, I've been asked countless times to comment on reports. Many years ago, the fact of the matter is that each of the parties to this alleged affair denied its existence. I'm not denying this affair because I was paid hush money. I'm denying this affair because it never happened. Yeah, so this is a different letter. So there is no and or in this one. So it's a different letter. It was and or. Okay, so it was cleverly worded. It was not romantic, but it was sexual. It was and or/or. Okay, so it was cleverly worded. I don't understand the question. What are you asking? He says, you call it hush money. I don't know what that means. I call it consideration. Okay, this was a settlement in a civil matter. So you wouldn't call it hush money? He says, I would never use that word. No, I call it consideration, okay, which is a contractual term of art. In contract law, you have what's called an offer, an agreement, and then consideration, which kind of seals the deal. It's like something that kind of glues the deal together. Somebody does something in furtherance of the deal, right? There's some exchange, somebody starts something, it's some values created, it's value transacted. No, I would never use that. It's consideration. So there was financial exchange for a benefit. That's all. He says, and Cohen was like texting me. He said, oh gosh, Stormy's going on Hannity, Davidson. This isn't good. And then he wrote back, he says, no interviews, okay? Stop giving her interviews. It was another one of Michael Cohen's pants on fire moments, okay? He asked someone or some wise man, they said. Someone said no interviews. Okay, so what does this text say, Mr. Davidson? He says, Cohen asks, why is she going on Kimmel after the State of the Union? He's sending me this text. So I don't know. I said I was difficult. She might have to repay the money and liquidated damages. I don't know. So Stormy just said, this is my shot, is what I think he says. She wanted to rejuvenate her career, just like Karen McDougal did. I said, it was difficult. Why is she going on Kimmel? I don't know. Might have to repay money. There's liquidated damages. This is my shot. She said to me, this is my shot. She wanted to rejuvenate her career. Of course she did. She wanted to go on Dancing with the Stars. And Trump, or somebody, apparently met with her at Trump Tower, and she was rejected. So now she has to create this new claim. Now, you don't have to read all these, says the government to Mr. Davidson. Don't read all this, but what is this about here? He says, oh, that's about a news article that had been published. I was receiving hundreds of phone calls. And did you prepare another denial before Kimmel? Yeah, I gave him another statement. Wouldn't call it a denial, but it's a statement. And where were you when you typed this statement? Davidson says, oh, well, yeah, I remember that place. In fact, I was in the Marilyn Monroe suite in the Roosevelt Hotel in Hollywood, California. Fancy. He says there were hair people there. Gina Rodriguez and her then boyfriend Anthony were all there, and I was just typing away. While why were you there? Oh, well, Jimmy Kimmel had booked a suite for Stormy. So he's still her lawyer, still running around. Says the statement ended. It says, please check me out on Instagram. And so how was it true? I mean, you were denying that there was an alleged relationship. And of course, we just read that statement. I think they're to this statement now. So she's denying it. So how is that statement true if you helped her draft it and sign it? He says, well, it was not a relationship. That'd mean, some ongoing interaction. So there was no relationship. Well, what about these texts, Mr. Davidson? And he says, well, Michael Cohen was talking Kimmel. He sent me a text. Cohen sent me a text saying, she is saying it's not her signature. What? He asked me, did you say she signed this in front of you? So now Stormy, who signed that letter that we just looked at, is saying it's not even mine. So Cohen's saying, what the heck, dude? She said she signed it in front of you. And what did you reply? Davidson said, WTF. He says, I said WTF. He tells the prosecutor, it's an expression of exasperation. And what next? He says, well, Gina was there, said she was mad at Stormy, that Stormy had her look like a liar. Okay, Stormy was now talking about stuff. Now Gina said that she has to have a long talk with Stormy on the plane to New York. Gina's this talent manager, right, who keeps these people in line. Says they were going to go film something, and so we had to get her in line. Now, did Michael Cohen, says the government, threaten a lawsuit? He says, oh yeah, many times. He can be a very aggressive guy just running his mouth all the time. He threatened to rain down legal hell on Stormy. He'd say, you don't know who you are effing him. And what did you want to do? He says, I'd just deny the allegations. Now, whose contacts, Mr. Davidson, Stormy's lawyer, McDougal's lawyer, whose contacts did Cohen send to you? Christopher Cuomo. Who's he? Oh, he's in the broadcasting business. And what did you write to Cuomo? He says, I said that Cohen, having paid, was in conformity with what he told me. So Cohen paid, and that's what he told me. Now, did you check it with Mr. Cohen before you sent that to Christopher Cuomo, the reporter? He says, yeah, I did. And I believed it was truthful. It was what Cohen had told me. Cohen got the money. Remember, Cohen went and got this mortgage, this home equity line of credit type of, was moving money around. And he says, yeah, I checked with him and he did do that. And so I believed it was truthful because Cohen told me, he says, F it, I'll just do it myself because Cohen needed a bank. Cohen in the McDougal deal, well, he wasn't a part of that. That was the Davidson-Pecker deal. So McDougal, Pecker, and Davidson, this guy, they settled the McDougal thing. And AMI, the National Enquirer, was the bank for that deal. Now, Cohen wasn't going to get Stormy's case and this case and AMI to be the bank. So Cohen just said, I'll do it. And then he'll get paid for that. So prosecutor says, but you believe that the ultimate source of the funds ultimately was Mr. Trump, right? So it wasn't like Cohen said, I'll just do it myself. And prosecutors like getting nervous here. Whoa, okay. But Trump was involved in this, right? Looking at the jurors like, hold on a minute. But you believe that ultimately the money came from Trump though, right? He says, well, at the time of the transaction, later in the department store conversation, he said he had not been reimbursed. Now at the time of the transaction, ... Later in the department store conversation, he said he had not been reimbursed. So it's hard to interpret that. I don't know if he knew it at the time of the transaction or if he learned it later when Cohen said, Trump didn't pay me back. And he's like, oh, I guess Trump's paying for this. I thought that was just your deal, Cohen. That just might be a transcription jump. We'll see if, how he actually answered that. That's an interesting one. Government says, okay, Mr. Davidson, do you have a stake in this trial? He says, no. Okay, no further questions. They take their break. We're back. We have cross-examination starting. All rise. Please be seated. Jury seated. Judges back. Trump's attorney, Emil Beauvais, is now back. He says, good morning, Mr. Davidson. Now, you've never met President Trump. Is that right? I have not. And you only know of Mr. Trump from TV and Michael Cohen. Is that right? And some other clients, but not from him. And you got other AMI business through Dylan Howard, right? Like, for example, a labor matter with a reporter. He says, yeah, a California matter. I consulted on that one. And Dylan Howard was content guy with AMI. So these guys are referring business to each other, okay? AMI and the National Enquirer are shopping for stories. This is exactly what they do. They go have people find these stories, will buy it. Yeah, it's a great story. Come in here, tell your story, put you on the magazine. Playboy Playmate, Karen McDougal, right? She's out there like, put her on the cover, okay? Zoom in on that, okay? And they sell a bunch of magazines. That's how it works. When someone needs representation, someone maybe might come to National Enquirer on their own without a lawyer. They say, you might need a lawyer. Here, contact Davidson because you should lawyer up to work your deal out. Now, a labor matter, right? He says, yeah, I worked on a California matter. I consulted on that. And you also testified, Mr. Davidson, to the grand jury, right? And you said in 2023, in fact, you said that Karen McDougal didn't want to publish this story. Is that what you said? Yes. And you said Miss McDougal had had a real career, like she was on magazine covers, right? More than that. So you called her AMI deal a dream deal when this came out, right? So she had, sort of a downfall after that all deflated. And then she is looking to get things back on track. And so you called her AMI deal a dream deal. Is that right? Well, no, she called it that. Oh, she did. And you didn't discuss that with Michael Cohen until it closed. So the McDougal deal was done, and then you talked to Cohen about it. Is that right? Yeah. And you also had a reciprocal referral relationship with Gina Rodriguez, and she was the talent agent for a bunch of reality TV stars. So you refer her stuff too, right? Well, somewhat. And you tried to represent her in this matter, in this case. He says, no, I didn't really try to represent her. I just returned a phone call for her. But the DA's office told you that that was a conflict, right? Like you can't represent her if you're both witnesses in this case. Is that true? No, I disagree with that. Well, I disagree with their saying it's a conflict, and I didn't agree with that statement, but I still chose not to represent her anyways. So, okay, I'm not representing her. All right, but you did represent Stormy Daniels, didn't you? So McDougal is done, and then Stormy comes along. Now, you also represented Stormy Daniels in her $130,000 agreement, right? Yeah. And the word is called decoded. The word decoded was used, quote. That was your idea to use that word? Did you come up with this? No, I didn't. It's a widely used term, Trump's defense says. When you were in your Alice in Wonderland warehouse conversation in that weird department store, Michael Cohen was down on himself. He was feeling a little bit down when he called you. F&A, Trump's not taking me to water. He says, yeah, I thought he was going to eliminate himself. Bad. Now, he told you, Michael Cohen said that he thought that he would be the chief of staff. Is that right? Or that he would be the attorney general? He called you to say I'd be the attorney general? He says, yeah, he did. Holy, this dude's nuts. Okay. But here is where this continues. Okay. Deluded Cohen calls Davidson and says, I can't believe this. I'm going to eliminate myself because I'm not going to be the AG of the Justice Department. Davidson's like, you're freaking whack, dude. Now, Emil Bovee, Trump's lawyer, says, when you met with Bragg's office, you met by Zoom, didn't you, Mr. Davidson? Yeah. And Mark Pomerantz, the guy we talked about in the first segment, he was the one who was asking you the questions, right? Yeah. Objection, says the government. They go up to the sidebar. They have a conversation about this. Objection sustained. They go back. Mr. Davidson, Stormy McDougal's lawyers, what does extortion mean to you, sir? I would say it is about coercion, and there's more to that. It's when it's by force or threat and whatever. Now, is it your belief that the statute of limitations has expired on any extortion by you in this case? Like, do you think you could be charged with a crime for this? Like, you could be involved in an extortion scheme? He says, crap, I haven't even thought about that. You're a lawyer and you haven't thought of that prior to your testimony today? Like, you don't think that you're a part of this scam or this scandal? Like, you might be alleged to be a part of it? No, I haven't thought of that. Okay, well, all right. Hopefully it doesn't happen to you. Now, do you remember telling the DA's office that you didn't recall the election being the deadline? Because I recall saying I do not recall. Yeah, I do recall saying I do not recall, now that you mention it. You say you worked on media cases. Is that right? Yeah. And in those cases, it's true you used NDAs, right? Right. And you were pretty well versed in getting right up to the line on these claims without it becoming extortion. He says, I don't know what you mean. It's a weird question. Have you familiarized yourself with extortion law based on a particular experience? You familiarized yourself with extortion law. It's kind of a rule, like you never ask the question in the law that you don't know the answer to, right? It says you familiarized yourself with extortion law. Why? Based on a particular experience, didn't you? No. Weren't you investigated for extortion under Florida law in 2012? He goes, oh yeah, that time. So you tried to avoid extortion about the 2016 elections to Michael Cohen. Is that right? No, I didn't think that. So you see what's happening? No, I don't know anything about extortion. What I do is not extortion. I'm not extorting, billionaires or millionaires with these NDAs. It's not extortion at all. It's consideration like a contract. But weren't you investigated for extortion? Oh yeah, forgot about it. I was. So since you were investigated in Florida in 2012 for extortion, you probably didn't want to commit extortion again, right? And so you tried to avoid extortion in 2016 when you were working with Michael Cohen, right? No. Okay. But you represented to Don Holland. You said that Don Holland was leaking about Lindsay Lohan in rehab. You remember that? And TMZ paid her $10,000. Remember that deal? No, I don't recall that. But she was your client though, right? Yeah, but I don't know what you're referring to. But didn't you broker, Mr. Davidson, the Tila Tequila sex tape? Oh, gosh. And you were on a 90-day bar suspension too, weren't you? You lost your license. You were suspended for 90 days, right? I don't recall. And didn't you extract money from Charlie Sheen, right? There was no extraction. Okay, let's say this. You caused Charlie Sheen, who is like, the mega all-star for for a while in this country. You caused him to pay, didn't you? He said, well, of course. I mean, there was tortious behavior. I mean, there were damages, so he had to pay. And isn't it true that you got a client to sign a 60% retainer agreement when she could barely complete a sentence while she was on meth? Isn't that true? Objection! Sustained. He says, I'm a little fuzzy. He says, you're fuzzy? You don't remember signing someone on meth who could hardly speak, drooling out of themselves like Hunter Biden? You gave him a 60% retainer, so you're going to take 60% of everything? It's like, come on, man. They're going to get 40% of that? Like you're going to take the majority? Dude, from someone who's high drooling on themselves? You're fuzzy? What? Well, I've had 1,500 clients or so. He says, yeah, you had a lot. What about Capri Anderson? He says, assuming arguendo, which it means for the sake of argument. He says, okay, look, we're both lawyers here. Don't give me this arguendo crap. I'm not here to play legal games with you, Mr. Davidson. I just want truthful answers from you. He says, you're getting truthful answers. And if you're not here to play legal games, then don't use words like extract with me. He says, fine. Did Capri Anderson reach a settlement with Charlie Sheen? He says, I'm not going to answer that question. He says, Your Honor, please instruct the witness to answer this question. He clearly needs to answer it. He says, no, he's asserting privilege. Ask another question. Move on. He says, okay, what about the Hulk Hogan tape? Did you tell Hulk Hogan the Gawker post was just a shot across the bow? Like they've got way more from you, Hulk? You should settle? He says, I don't recall that. He says, fine, let's go to People's Exhibit. They put this up here. Were these your messages with Michael Cohen? Were these about Hulk Hogan? You see that on the screen? He says, yeah, I see it. So it's true. You told Hulk Hogan's representation that you didn't want to out gay men. Is that what you said? That they should pay, right? That you demanded money? He says, well, I made a monetary demand. Yeah, I did. But then the National Enquirer published it, right? Look at Defense Exhibit F2-7 for the parties here. Pull that up. Didn't Dylan Howard with the National Enquirer have a byline on one of the Hulk Hogan tape articles? Didn't Dylan Howard have it? Look at it right there. Is that what you see? He says, yeah. And so you gave the info to Dylan Howard, right? You were with Hogan and you gave it to Howard. He says, I did not. There was an FBI investigation into all of this, right? He says, yeah. And the FBI had a sting operation, didn't they? He says, I don't know what that is. The FBI was recording you, Mr. Davidson, a couple of doors down, weren't they? He says, well, they had an investigation. So the Tampa PD, they referenced extortion, didn't they? Well, they investigated it. And so because of that, you became familiar, back to my original question, with extortion law. Perhaps I was. And in the Manny Pacquiao finder's fee case, you said if there was no settlement, the guy would never find work in California. Didn't you say that? He says, no, I don't speak like that, I'm sure. All right, back to this case, Mr. Davidson. Now, a friend of Karen McDougal was trying to publicize Miss McDougal's relationship without her consent. Isn't that true? So someone else had the story, okay? Karen McDougal had the story, but a friend's like, I've got the gossip, man. I can't wait to share this. He says, yeah, someone was trying to do that, but I didn't know who. And your fee in this case was 45%. Is that right? Your fee was 45%? He says, yeah. And you mentioned John Crawford, didn't you? Who's that? He says, ex-PD. And Crawford also owns UPS stores around Phoenix. And Crawford got paid, didn't he? Yeah, he was compensated. But you know the California rules prohibit non-attorneys from being paid from attorney's fees, right? And you've been disciplined on that, haven't you? He says, no. So you garnered confidence by already getting interest from the National Enquirer. And you told Karen McDougal that, right? He says, perhaps. So now he's getting into some client stuff. Maybe I did. So you went and basically started warming up the fire. And then you said, hey, Karen, this might be something they're interested in. So you're in a relationship, Mr. Davidson. So your relationship with Dylan Howard from the National Enquirer, it benefited your law practice, didn't it? So he does content curation for National Enquirer. You represent people who have stories that might be great content for the National Enquirer. You refer each other business. You guys kind of benefited each other, right? I don't see how the two are related. But AMI, who owns the National Enquirer, says Trump's defense, they said that Miss McDougal had not provided enough evidence. Remember that? And so you wrote to Dylan and they said, and you said that she found her BlackBerry. Wow, what a miracle. So the lawyer brings McDougal to AMI, National Enquirer. They say, this is a crap story. There's not enough evidence here. Go find more evidence. She says, no problem. Happy to do that. Oh, look, I went and checked under my mattress. I found my BlackBerry. Great. And now I have more evidence. So the lawyer sends that back to the National Enquirer. Hey, great news. We found some evidence. Now you told Mr. Howard that you were drafting a declination letter, didn't you? He says, okay, let's take a break. The judge. We're back from the break. Judge says, all right, anything before we bring the jurors back in today? Trump's defense attorney, Susan Nicholas, says, Your Honor, yeah, actually, I'm handing up some articles that President Trump would like to post on his Truth Social account. They mention witnesses and prosecutors, but the gag order is a little bit ambiguous about this. And so we're going to show you these articles. articles. He wants to share this whole stack of them. Can he retruth these? Yes or no? Government says, Your Honor, they are asking for advance rulings on this. I mean, sure, there is a political campaign, but this is a criminal trial here. And so they don't get any advance rulings on his conduct. And so he says, I'm not going to issue some advance ruling. So I would just say, be cautious. Well, Your Honor, can we post it or not? Okay, he wants to argue that it's political. He say, well, I'd say steer clear. Don't post it. Okay, so it's election interference again from this judge. Can we post some political articles on our True Social account? No, or else you get fined or go to jail. So once again, Trump is asking for permission. Can you please just look at these? Can I just post this at all? No, it's strange that they will issue prior restraints and then won't give advance rulings, right? So he's kind of damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. So if he posts and it's illegal, that's his own fault. Sorry, you should have steered clear in the middle of a campaign. Election interference, 100%. Don't even ask. Now the judge says, okay, I'd steer clear. Bring in the jury. Jury comes in. Trump's attorney, Emile Beauvais, is back. Davidson's on the stand from the break. He says, Mr. Davidson, Gina Rodriguez is the talent manager. He says, her boyfriend is called Anthony, right? And he wrote the piece on The Dirty, which is a gossip website, right? Which is interesting connection, how connected all this is. Davidson says, I don't know. And The Dirty is owned by Karen McDougal's ex as well. Is that true? Wow. It just gets deeper. I don't know. He says, I don't know. So you were able to get the 2011 The Dirty post taken down because Gina's boyfriend wrote it? Is that right? Well, she could have just told her boyfriend, right? Gina could have just told him. So they go through this whole deal. Remember, Gina Rodriguez was in the room, it sounds like, at that hotel at Jimmy Kimmel's event. And then the stories start to leak out. So she maybe is telling somebody about it, wrecking Davidson's deal, or maybe Davidson's telling her, right? Who knows? But he says, well, she could have just told her boyfriend. Maybe that's why he wrote it, because Gina was in the room and told him. But okay, the cease and desist letter wasn't one of your big victories. Like you sent them this letter and it worked, right? Yeah, it worked. And didn't Larry Flint offer to indemnify Stormy Daniels about the settlement agreement, right? So somebody else offered to basically back her up. Says, I think there were other terms too, because her legal fees would have been paid, right? He says, well, the legal fees would have been paid, but it's still a problems in one's life. Like they still have to handle the court proceedings, even if somebody will pay for it. Now, Mr. Davidson, now after all this happened, you kept working with Michael Cohen, right? After Stormy, he sent you another client. He says, yeah, he sent me a non-paying client, the worst. What about this woman called Summer Zervos? And what about this person, Shara Bachard, who claimed that they had intercourse with Elliot Brody, whoever these people are? He said, I don't know. I don't recall. You don't remember this morning? What? They asked if Mr. Cohen had ever recorded your conversations. And you don't remember today this? He says, some agency asked, and I said yes. I said his conversations were odd at times. He was speaking then in a linear fashion. He says, okay, well, please put on the headphones. I'm going to play some audio for you. He does. He says, I play this for you. Plays the audio. And Mr. Davidson, that was your voice, right? He says, yeah. And in that audio, you spoke about settler's remorse. You talked about leverage, right? You talked about Stormy Daniels in that audio. Is that correct? He says, yeah, probably. And when you said that, quote, hypothetically speaking, that's kind of like a code, right? So that you could sit in a chair like this and say, I'm not sure, right? And probably, right? You could sit here and say, I don't know, because you talk in code. Is that right? No. So it was Stormy Daniels' goal, wasn't it, to create leverage over Trump? Is that true? Because that's what you were talking about. Settler's remorse, leverage, Stormy Daniels, Donald Trump. So she's going to create leverage. Is that true? He says, I think you're grossly misstating. He says, there's no question pending. Government says, let him answer. Judge says, you may answer. He says, you're misstating the time period. He says, okay, so then Stormy hired Michael Avenatti, right? Is that what you're talking about? He says, yeah. And you said Michael Avenatti is really driving a wedge between Stormy and Gina, the talent agent. He says, I don't recall that. He said, well, you can listen to it. Put the headphones on. Play it again. They play it. Now, do you remember? He says, yeah. Did you say that it was not discussed if Donald Trump was paying Michael Cohen back? Did you say it was not discussed about this question, whether Trump was paying him back? He says, I don't recall. I do not recall. Well, put the headphones back on. They don't get to hear it, so we can't hear it. He says, okay, I heard it. Yeah, it's true. I did say that it was not discussed if Trump was paying Cohen back. Okay, so no connection between Trump and Cohen. He said, it's true. I did say it was not discussed. Did you say to Michael Cohen, you said something like, we both want the truth out there. Did you say that? Yeah, I did. And in 2018 in April, Mr. Davidson, did you speak with Michael Cohen about Gina Rodriguez and her boyfriend? And what was he saying? No, I didn't speak with them. Do you recall telling Michael Cohen a quote? Do you recall saying that if he loses the election, he will destroy, and he will, this story is worth zero. We have no effing leverage. leverage. Do you remember saying that? We need Trump to win. Otherwise, this story is meaningless. Only an interesting story if it's about a president, not Trump, a billionaire. So if he loses, this story's worth zero. We've got no leverage. Did you say that? Yeah. And for everyone, this agreement here, this is a legal document, isn't it? Yeah. And you even had copyright in there. You put copyright in there. He says, I put transfer of copyright in there. And on this signature page, Mr. Davidson, David Dennison had not signed this contract, correct? He had not. And you do not know what happened to this after you saw it, right? No. No further questions. Cross-examination. Prosecutor says, can I have 5 minutes, please? He says, sure, let's take a break. We're back. Prosecutor's back up, says, okay, Mr. Davidson says, Trump's lawyer, Mr. Beauvais, he just asked you about conversations with Cohen. Here's my question. Had Michael Avenatti taken Stormy Daniels as a client and sued both of you? Yes. So were you saying Stormy Daniels was not threatened in Las Vegas, in LV? No. Now the quote that you said here, that if he loses the election, we lose all effing leverage. Who said that? He says, Anthony did. We want to put this document up, Your Honor. There's audio of Michael Cohen. They're playing 265, this exhibit. Cohen says, would you break away from the Trump doctrine? Cohen is saying this. He says, no one is thinking about Michael. What about me? How many times he said to me, I hate that we did it. And I told him it was the right move. Davidson is responding, even if you let to write a book, you probably couldn't. Cohen says, nah, I could write a book. So what did this mean? He said, I hate that we did it. When Cohen was telling you, Mr. Davidson, he said, I hate that we did it. What did that mean? He was talking about the Stormy Daniels settlement. No further questions. Mr. Bove, Mr. Davidson, you don't know the date of this recording, do you? I do not. All right, we move these into evidence, no objection, and we play them. Now here's Davidson speaking about settler's remorse, saying settle by date X or we have no leverage. Or you try to settle twice if you get a chance, hypothetically speaking. So let's play the next audio clip. Here's another one. Davidson is on the audio saying, Gina brought Stormy to Avenatti, the $130,000. Was there ever any indication that the money was coming from him? And I said, no. They said, did you ever ask? I said, I don't ask other lawyers about their conversations, so I don't know where the money was coming from. Davidson said, it's going to air later today. We both know it's the truth, Michael. And the next audio clip says, on audio, it says, Stormy said, if he loses the case and we lose leverage, I'm going to sue you. That's called being pushed into settling the case. Okay, so Stormy's now threatening the lawyer. Go get this settled or else. Emile Beauvais says, Mr. Davidson, now the letters DD, you say that was Donald Trump, right? A man you've never met, never been in the same room with until Tuesday, right? That's true. No further questions. Yeah, this is curious. So he ends there. We're done with Davidson, and that took a turn. So we have Davidson now, who has been somebody who's already been investigated for extortion, who was apparently in the room when a lot of these people were getting leaks or creating leaks, writing stories that may have been leaked from those very meetings. And it's a very, very strange ordeal. And so we are done with him. We get our next witness. Judge Mercan says, next witness is here. Government prosecutors come out. They say the government calls Douglas Dowse. They say, tell me about your history. Okay, this is a tech guy. So he's going to explain and basically authenticate, verify the technology. So it might be a little bit foundational, might be a little bit boring. Let's see what we got. He says, okay, people call David Dowse. So tell me about your history. Well, I was in Iraq 2009, 2011, done a lot of tech work since then. Now at the Manhattan DA's office, what do you do there? He says, well, I'm a computer and film tech expert. I'm a supervising analyst and I keep up with technology. How many devices have you analyzed? Well, at the Manhattan's office. He says, well, 3,392. Government says, more or less. Funny. Yeah, get a room, you two. More or less. Right? They work on the same team. Now, did you extract Michael Cohen's Apple 6S and Apple 7? Yeah. And did you note the last four numbers of the cell phone number? Yeah. 0114. All the serial numbers too. He says, I move to admit these as exhibits. No objections. Boom, it's in evidence. Let's pull up these evidence from Cohen's cell phones. And now, who are these text messages between? He says, that's from Michael Cohen and Hope Hicks. What are the last four of her number? It says 0226. And how many contacts did Michael Cohen have? 39,000. Oh my gosh, that's a lot. Way too many. Have you ever met Michael Cohen? Yes. I mean, no, I've seen him. How have you seen him? Well, I watch a lot of news. And this audio file, he says it's with Keith Davidson and it's in his voice notes. We offer exhibit 247. What's this date? He says it's from 9/6/2016. Trump is not in the White House. Election's right around the corner. And it's People's Government Exhibit 246. Is this a transcript of the last 46 seconds of that audio? And is that accurate? This is the tech guy. Yeah, it's accurate. They play the audio. It's from Davidson. Or actually, no, this is from Trump, apparently. So this is Davidson in his voice notes, or it's with Keith Davidson in voice notes. Okay, I see. So remember, we're on Michael Cohen's phone. Cohen recorded a voice note. It's with Keith Davidson in the voice voice notes, but it's a Michael Cohen's phone. So I'm wondering, how does Trump get on here? It's because it's with Cohen. So it says, here's Exhibit 246. Is this a transcript and is it accurate? Yes. Perfect. We'll play the audio. In the audio, Donald Trump is on. He says, let me know what's happening, okay? It's such BS. I think this goes away quickly. Cohen says, big time. Yeah. Cohen says, I need to set up a company for the transfer. Our friend David. ... Audio cuts out. It's 46 seconds. We have no idea what the rest of it said. I don't know why not. I don't know where that audio came from or how it got in Cohen's notes or when he created it, why he created it, but it's in there. 46 seconds. And of course, Trump is, this whole thing's BS. Deal with it. Even if they're talking about this, like we don't even know if they're talking about this. I think the only thing that references this is the word David. And I think they're saying that his name is DD. Prosecutor thinks that's a major win. Says, okay, nothing further. Trump wants to know what's happening. It's BS. I think this goes away quickly. But I need to set up a company for the transfer. Our friend David. Okay. Cross-examination? He says, all right, Mr. Dallas, you said your work in Iraq was similar to Manhattan. He says, yeah. But this is a criminal case, not a terrorist case, right? Now, these hashes are long, so the computer does a lot of this work for you. Is that right? You know, hashing the data? He says, yeah. Now, you testified today about some of the artifacts from 2 phones, and there are segments of much broader data, right? He says, yeah, I'm not part of the investigative team, so I don't know how this image landed to me. I just got it in, he's like, I don't know. I'm not part of the team that got there, but there are segments that are part of much broader data. So again, why was it cut off? We'll see. Judge says, okay, perfect. Just as you're getting into this, we're going to take a break. And tomorrow they're breaking early. So it says, jurors, get out of here. Don't read about the case. Jurors leave. They're cutting out a little bit early on the Friday. And of course, that is the end of the day. And so inner city press reporting, my friends. And so what a day. Of course, that was the trial testimony. We also had Trump who commented about this. Trump says, people were saying that he was getting a little bit sleepy in there. He says, hey, contrary to the fake news media, okay, I don't fall asleep during the crooked DA's witch hunt, especially not today. I simply close my beautiful blue eyes sometimes, listen intensely, and take it all in. From Trump and his big, beautiful blue eyes in Alvin Bragg's crooked witch hunt. And there was a great comment that someone should bring him a My Pillow. Call Mike Lindell. Just bring him a nice pillow, maybe with a little gold engraving. Beautiful. So what is the reaction to a lot of this? Tim Scott says, Trump's wired for this. He can handle it. Not a big deal at all. And then we'll see what Trump did with the fire department there in New York, capitalizing on this rigged ordeal. But Tim Scott, many rumoring him to be a potential prospective VP contender. This is what he says about these trials.
Well, there's no doubt when you watch the president campaign on his one day from court in Michigan and Wisconsin, he just needs to continue to do what he's doing. He's talking about America's future. He's talking about making sure that every single American gets to live their version of the American dream. He's talking about the fact that the liberal elite and the Democrats are coming after him because he's standing in the gap for everyday patriot. There's no better contrast between Dearborn, Michigan and the rest of the state where you see the patriot lovers coming out for Donald Trump, and then you have the oppressors, the Injustice League, standing in solidarity behind Joe Biden, and anti-Semites and sympathizers are rallying around Democrats. There is no doubt that the party of Lincoln, the party of Reagan, and the party of Trump were standing in solidarity for who we are as Americans. I love President Trump, love his passion, but he is wired for what we're going through right now.
I think that is a true point, whether you like him or not for VP. I don't know that there's anybody who could withstand this type of onslaught, and it has been a wild, historic thing to watch unfold, and I think a lot of the strength comes from the people who stand behind the president. So we had Donald Trump, after this entire ordeal was over, came out and spoke to the media and to some other people. He was also at a campaign event in Wisconsin during the day off, and this is what it looked like after court had ended.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it. We had a long day of court as always, but very happy about the way things are going. The fact is that we're looking outside and we're seeing all of the things that are taking place in our economy, with inflation, with the kind of numbers that are being announced. We're seeing all of the crime that's going on outside, and to be sitting in this courtroom over this is just ridiculous. It's election interference at the highest level. Never been done before in our country. And I should be out campaigning right now, and I want to be out campaigning like I was yesterday. We finally had a break, and I was out campaigning yesterday. Very unfair. There's never been anything like this in the history of our country. Never. So we're doing well. The polls are extremely good despite that. The polls are extremely good, the best we've ever had, and it looks like we're doing very well.
That is the president. He's saying we're doing well. We're still campaigning when we can. This was from the rally yesterday. So remember, part of the Democrat campaign strategy is just to keep him bogged down. It's about energy, right? In 2020, they tried to suppress the energy on the right with COVID. It worked. And they have to make up for the enthusiasm gap that Joe Biden has. So if Joe Biden can't hardly walk to his helicopter across grass, they have to conceal that. They have to stop the energy from Donald Trump. And they can do that, theoretically, in their minds, by locking him down 4 days a week so he can't be out there campaigning. Well, on Wednesdays, when he was off of trial, he went over to Wisconsin, and this clip is outstanding. Here is Trump, and the energy feels a lot like 2016. Watch this one.
He's in good shape.
Thank you, Uncle Phil.
Look at this guy.
The last one you signed got lost.
Oh, I'll sign it.
Yeah,
Give me, I'll sign it. I'll sign it for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. He asked me to sign it. I said, I got to make a speech here, Uncle Sam. Good looking Uncle Sam, though, huh? Give me a pen, somebody. Let's get Uncle Sam taken care of. Come on. Give me a pen. I got to get a pen. Let's go. Yeah, good. Just throw it up there.
Hit the teleprompter.
Give me a pen, please.
Wow.
You think Biden can bend down like that? I don't think so.
No. No, he can't.
Where's Uncle Sam? Here's your pen back. Thank you. Uncle Sam, you got it, man. Secret Service. Secret Service doesn't love that stuff.
No,
They're not in love. They're looking like, what's he doing? Don't do this.
That's exactly what I thought. He's like, just throw your pens at me. I'm like, oh my gosh, they all had aneurysms. All right, everyone's like throwing pens at Trump. They're all gonna have a heart attack. But that's because Trump's not scared of anything, okay? Not pens. There are loving people. MAGA's in that room, and the energy of MAGA will persevere and protect him. So just hilarious. And Joe Biden, honestly, could he bend down and pick up a pen? I don't think so. They tried to put him on a bike, remember? They stopped doing that after that little ordeal, not doing that anymore. So Trump is hilarious. You can see the crowd absolutely eating it up. And after trial took place today, he came out and delivered pizzas to the NYPD and the FDNY all across New York.
Outside of a fire station after leaving court, he's got pizza for the guys. This is typical Trump. Let's poke in and see what he's up to right there.
Enjoy, fellas.
He can walk up to a firehouse, a police station. He can walk into a boardroom, a bowling alley, or a bar and have a conversation with absolutely anybody. We don't have any audio on him right now, but apparently he's going inside to talk to these firefighters, which is, by the way, right outside the studio, folks. This is incredible. The fact that he leaves court, goes and campaigns with these people, and goes and campaigns with ordinary people, not high-dollar fundraisers with Lizzo like Joe Biden did recently.
Right on. Exactly right. So he's looking good, saying what's up to our men and women and the fire department and the police department who are out there serving their communities. We're grateful for them. Trump is as well. So a fun day near at the end of the trial, and a very interesting day when Michael Cohen's credibility got shredded even further, saying that he was not trustworthy, right? This is not somebody that is honest, and they were trying to get out of certain deals. He's calling, he's suicidal, he's delusional to the point he thinks he's going to be the attorney general. He's going to be the chief of staff for the president. So more madness ahead, no doubt. We're going to be here continuing to cover this, my friend. So thank you for subscribing and joining us as we do. We love when you invite someone over to come and join us so that they also can see what's happening behind the scenes on these cases. We're grateful for checking out the members only community that we have. It's watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We do streams 6 days a week, including on Saturdays in the mornings, and we get into a bunch of other stuff that we can't squeeze in here on the live stream. So thanks for supporting us. Thanks for joining us, becoming a membo, meeting some great membos. We'll see you over there and back here on the next one.